he's not getting tried for his documents. You remember those classified documents? Yeah, the one that, they turned up finding out it was in the garage. Those classified documents. Joe sort of remembers it. Remember?
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, okay. Classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage. Okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway.
Was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know
He takes classified documents so seriously. He leaves them in the locked garage next to the Corvette. Well, this became an issue, of course, because Robert Hur was supposed to move forward with prosecution, ultimately decided he couldn't. He said, you know what, this guy committed a real crime. Let's go back to Robert Hur saying exactly that in his congressional testimony. Listen.
Based on the facts and anticipation of defenses presented in your report, could a reasonable juror have voted to convict?
As I said in the report, some reasonable jurors may have reached the inferences that the government would present in its case in chief at trial.
So a reasonable juror could have voted to convict based on the facts that you presented?
Correct.
In other words, yes, absolutely could have gotten a conviction, but there's a reason they didn't bring charges. I mean, they brought him against Trump. But Robert Hur said he couldn't have really been sure of a conviction because Joe Biden's presenting as old and frail and with a very weak memory. I mean, his memory was strong enough to have gone and gotten those documents, those classified documents, and then to have used them and handed them to a reporter and said, okay, here we go for his multi-million-dollar book. I mean, he profited off of those. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Profited off of the documents. And yet, because he's so old and frail and nobody actually believes he's capable of remembering anything, well, you can't actually bring these charges against him. So they're protecting him. They're circling the wagons over and over and over again. So logically, now Republicans are saying, and there's one down in Florida, Representative Luna, she's like, I want to hear these tapes. I mean, we should hear these tapes, right? The American public ought to hear what went down in those sessions with Robert Hur that made him think we can't bring this case forward. And yet, no go. No. Yep. They're nipping that one in the bud as fast as they can over at the White House. They are invoking what's known as executive privilege. New York Times has a story on this. Biden asserts executive privilege in fight over recording of special counsel interview. I mean, that special counsel interview, it must be so bad. It's so bad. They can't possibly have that come out because guess what? That'll really sink the deal for the election. It'll really sink it.